What's up, boys? Got a new product update because of this. Issues with cable length coming from the manufacturer, specifically the crane plug-in, which we all come to love. I ran that in the military with running the at-peels, the high-powered at-peels. I think most of the things are running crane plug-ins these days, but they typically all come in that 7-inch configuration. And one of the things we talk about is not having to compromise your grip because of the gear you use. And this is really one of the common denominators we're seeing, is the cables just aren't long enough to be able to maximize this rail. If you're running a sub-gun configuration, a small rail, you might be able to get away with the 7-inch, but a lot of guys are hitting us up, how do you get longer cables? We just happen to be friends with people in the industry, and we know people at L3, so we can get extended cables, but not for the masses. So,
I mean, the history of them too, everyone was mounting their lasers on the front, so it wasn't a big deal.
it didn't matter.
Standard cable lengths right now, I think across the board are pretty much 7 inches with our mount, and what it does, cable lengths just aren't accommodating, and the biggest failure points of lasers most of the time are cables, just because they get cut, wear out, plugs are messed up. So it's an issue, and it's compromising the grip with the shorter cables, and compromising or making the cables more susceptible to failure and things like that. We've gotten a lot of requests about it too. We knew it was going to be an issue, and we're lucky enough that Unity wanted to partner with us on a new project and make some ideal custom cables and custom cable lengths for you guys. And I know we're talking about the crane plugins, Ingall plugins will come as well.
So 2 different lengths we're going to offer: a 10-inch dual lead, a 14-inch dual lead for the crane plugin. Ingall will come later, and then single in a 10-inch and a 14-inch for the crane plugin. Essentially, you've got one for your laser, also got one for your Surefire. I will be the first one to tell you that I have never been a fan of pressure pads on white lights. I know Cole's not either, but I will tip my hat to Unity. When they designed this button, they did a fucking spectacular job. They have just enough reset in here to where it's comfortable for the end user, so you can switch. We've been running them now for a couple months now, and knock on wood, not a single white light AD so far. And I think that's just because of the details. It's just reset enough to where you don't have to worry about gear bumping it and knocking it over. It's in a safe spot, but it's really comfortable for your hand. I mean, for most of our shooting standards, especially in daytime, I'm running my thumb right on top of this for my natural point aim, and I've had no issues, dude.
Yeah, I know, it's nice. It still comes with that 7-inch Surefire plug-in, but yeah, it is nice. It's just recessed enough, and if you just give it positive pressure, the light will come on, but also you can, if you guys hear that click, basically click it on to stay on, or click it off, but also you have that positive pressure and it'll turn it on, which is nice. And yeah, they did a hell of a job. It's actually, they own that patent.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
Yep, they own that patent, so.
Something from talking to different military guys, different law enforcement units, there are I'd say a vast number of the units. The way they run it now is when you're doing CQB, especially in training, going through selection, if your gun comes up, your white light turns on. And they do that so you can see the sector's your responsibility. You can see if you oversweep your buddy. If I illuminate Cole, they know I've scanned him because my white light is on. Not a lot of guys are doing night vision CQB all the time. And really, that's why we didn't mess around with white light too much. But now, you can't control the lighting conditions. That dark little shadowy corner, it's 85% illumined. You can't see with the naked eye. It's really easy just to give it a bump, especially if you don't have to change your grip. You don't have to really mess with anything.
No, it's good to see that.
I'm really digging it.
Their pressure pads are evolving. We always stay away from them. DJ's point, I've been a big advocate too. They're very much like the standard pressure pad. So when you grabbed it, there was nothing preventing that white light AD, but just with that recess button, and it's more deliberate as well, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it like this is how the pressure pads were. And if you would sling this thing on your back and your blowout kit hits this, your white light comes on. So you can imagine climbing up and over a wall, something hits that pressure pad, and you get this big white light, blasting in the courtyard or whatever you're doing. You can't account for it. It doesn't happen in nature, and it's a total accident. The way we always saw it was, it's no different than a gun, ND or an AD. Yeah. Like, you did not mean for that white light to go off, and it did, and that's a fucking serious problem. We really just try to be accountable. But yeah, I'm a big fan of those. And now that we've got them in 10-inch and 14-inch, and we'll show you why. Just with the standard plug, you can see it in some of the stuff we see guys get into is they won't have enough they'll try to stretch this thing out, and it gets in this kind of configuration, and a lot of guys are inadvertently putting a bunch of pressure on there and knocking the plugs out, or they're breaking cables. So instead of having to put a bunch of pressure on here, you can run a 10-inch cable or a 14-inch, and you can dress it up.
And to your point too, you were touching on it earlier, is if you're going to actually bring this cable back because of, you know, the 7-inch length, now you're recompromising your grip again as well. The 10-inch cables, we basically played around with a lot of different lengths. I mean, everything from, I mean, I'll just say 8 inches to 20 inches, because we wanted to give, we want to make it right for the end users, and basically kind of the 10 inch is ideal for, you know, these small sub guns, you know, 7.5 inch barrel, gives you enough flexibility to have a little extra room and for the rise. And then the 14-inch cable on, this is 11.5. And again, you have enough slack where you're able to protect that cable, but also put that pressure pad where you want it on your gun. I know I've seen some people too mount these, you know, the cables are coming out of the front. There's plenty of room to bend them back around and tuck them in. But I've also seen people actually do it this way. They actually prefer that, you know, it feels more positive to that end user individual, that, you know, laser button, they're able to get that. And when they pull back on this is when they use that white light. Open to the end user, obviously, but they did a good job with basically this mounting solution as well. And then also there's actually a little plastic piece right here that pops out. And if you want to, it's an M-lock adapter that basically, if you just have a flat rail and M-lock slot, you can mount it on there as well. But it's nice too, you don't have to worry about heating up Velcro, anything like that. It stays on, it's super nice, solid.
Yeah. You want to mount one real quick?
Yeah.
We go 14-inch?
So I have an Arisaka light mount adapted on here. It's nice. This actually fits in very tight and smooth, and able to tuck these cables in right here. With this being a dual lead.
And swap out your heads.
Yeah. And I'm actually able, I don't have to take off this Arisaka mount, which is nice. And you can clip it right on.
It's nice, you know, with that little plug they have, you can drop that thing one little Picatinny slot at a time to find your perfect grip, because you have the excess. I mean, guys that are used to running normal, when you were in the military, we had long cables because we were running 10-inch platforms, so we're used to doing a 90-degree fold back and stowing up some of the excess. I like having excess, because now if I'm running, you know, a 14-inch gun, I just drag it out. I can make that perfect grip however I want to.
Two, when you're fitting this, before you start taping stuff down, wrapping it up, giving it a quick test. One, that the laser and cable will work, and two, that it's where you want it on your grip. So if you feel comfortable with it, fits the right grip, kind of just check so you're not taping it all down and then having to untape everything and redo the work, as well as checking this.
You know, we were talking about the details, like the subtle little nuance stuff, when those engineers design that with all the end user feedback. If they would have taken this button and made it flush to this actual thing, I think it would have been bullshit. Them having that thing recessed, you know, what is that, a 1/16 of an inch? Like, I mean, it ain't much, man, but it's just enough to where you're not going to white light AD it. Like, you have to put your thumb in there, positive pressure on off. Really like that.
What's nice too is you can kind of tuck these cables, especially if you have a light like this and the Arisaka mount, you can tuck them right under. It just protects them a little more, keeps them clean. So see where I've tucked those cables in between the light and the AXON pressure pad, and you're able to get both those cables in there, tuck it away real nice and smooth. Clean, kind of nice out of the way. You can put some tape. There's all little nuances. So probably like half, quarter inch, different cable management, but it's nice. It tucks right under the Picatinny. Just kind of a single wrap. Let's blast a little bit with the lighter, just so that tape sticks a little better.
Like it makes it so smooth to be able to drive it out. Like, it feels comfortable. Like, you can shoot all the standards like this and nothing happens until you drive that thumb in to turn it on. Right? Like,
and two, again, it's like your cable's not being pulled out. It's not pulling on where it plugs in the laser. I mean, that crane's universal on pretty much everything, but Ingalls.
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty much using those.
Yeah.
And you know, the crane plug-in's great.
Yeah.
Just
It's easy. It's waterproof.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they beefed it up around the housing where
Yeah.
the actual plug-in goes, because that was the big point of failure on all the ones we got straight from the factory. If you're not really mindful of cable management and this thing's getting banged around a lot of these things shear. I mean, I've got a bunch of them in there that, you know, they just start to fray out a little bit, so you gotta be mindful with them. But, I mean, hopefully if you set it up one time the correct way, put a little bit of thought and ingenuity behind it, it'll last forever.
But yeah, I mean, it's streamlined. Not worried about cables snagging on anything or bumping into these or them becoming unplugged.
Coming soon, we'll drop the info down below. We've got 10-inch, 14-inch dual leads coming in black for the crane plug-in. We've got single leads for the crane plug-in, 10 and 14-inch.
Yeah, so
And galls will come later.
the AXON SL, just this single plug-in, is basically just this button.
Yep.
This is just the upgraded button right here for the single.
Yeah, really great button. Awesome job by Unity designing that. Appreciate them
looking forward
partnering with us.
Coming out with them.
Cool, man. If you guys got questions, comments, concerns, anything about setting it up, drop us a comment down below. And yeah, we'll answer it. We'll get back to you guys soon.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, boys.